strategies. We're going to be talking about social media as a tool. And so there's a lot of ways you can talk about social media. Our main goal today is we want to make sure that social media is a tool to help you accomplish what you're trying to accomplish at your conservation district in particular. So we'll be going over how to tie that social media strategy that you built to your annual and long range plans, as well as some tips and tricks to do that effectively in 2024 and looking into 2025. A little bit about my background. Up until 2 years ago, I used to work at the Washington State Conservation Commission as communications director there. And actually, my last day on the job was at Wade. It was actually one of my first days and my last days, and has always remained one of my absolute favorite things to attend each year. So, being here to present to you is a kind of a dream come true. So I'm here along with a couple of my colleagues. So let them introduce themselves.
So I'm Kara, and I'm an Eastern Washington farm girl. I grew up on a wheat and cattle ranch. If anybody has heard of Preston, Washington? Zero. That might be a first. Yes. Not surprising though, we're a real small town along Highway 2. Grand Coulee Dam area. We're just up on the plateau. It would be on the south side of the Columbia River. So that's where I grew up. Never in a million years thought I'd work in agriculture, but as fate would have it, I went to Wazoo. I got my degree in communications and broadcasting, along with political science and English. And so I ended up long way around via Montana, coming back home and doing work in the ag industry. So a lot of what I focus on are agricultural clients. So a lot of the work that I do is with potatoes, wheat, a little bit of the beef industry as well, along with turfgrass and some of the irrigated crops, along with Skagit County agriculture. So that's a little bit about where I come from. Laura and I actually met through a program, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, called Washington Grown, if anybody's heard of Washington Grown. And that's how we got connected. And so yeah, we've been working together for a couple of years now. So, and then our newest employee, we do believe in nepotism at KR. So.
Yeah, so my name's Colton, and I'm Laura's husband, and I'm the communications director with KR. I actually grew up on a corn and soybean row crop farm in Northwest Iowa, and now I live in Northeast Iowa, so I didn't move too far away. And I've been with the KR team for about a month and a half. Yeah, it's been awesome. So, and before this, the reason why I'm part of this talk today is because I used to work at the conservation district in Iowa for about 7 years. So eventually I'll get to talk to you guys about some of my experience and how we use social media to grow some of our practices. So thanks for including me.
So just a little bit about KR. So we specialize in ag and natural resource communications. We do strategic communications. So anything from policy work for some of our ag clients down to managing videos and documentaries and social media for clients as well. So as far as some of the district work we've done, it's ranging from anything from strategic planning help, organizational help, to also down and dirty designing, branding, and things like that.
Strategic messaging. One thing we've done with some conservation districts has been really fun is we do surveys with some of the stakeholders you've worked with that really represent all the different types of folks in your community. And then from their responses, build messaging for you to use to talk about your district using your community's own language.
Yeah, and we've helped conservation districts both in Washington, Ohio, Iowa. We've done some work as well. So we've tried to spread our wings and represent a lot of groups around the area.
So as I said earlier, we're going to cover a couple different topics. So the first section, we're going to talk about using social media as a tool. So I think a lot of us, we can see social media trends or any kind of communication trend really and try to just jump on it. What we're going to try to explain is how important it is to make sure that every social media platform you choose and the content you develop, how to make it function as a tool to achieve the outcomes you've set for your district, how you can work with program managers, grant managers, your director, your board to make sure the plan that you develop for your social media and the platforms you choose, everything's functioning as a tool to achieve the goals that you've set out as a team. And then the second half, we'll talk about some tools and tips for making that social media plan the most effective it can be. So to start off, turn over to Kara to talk a bit about social media as a.
So I think for a lot of folks, a lot of people put all their eggs in one basket. We tend to like to diversify how we get communication out to whoever the audience is that you guys have and who your target is. So social media is one tool of a toolbox that you guys can use, and that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. So with that idea, it being just one of many different tools, again, nothing is better than face-to-face communication. But odds are, how many of you are staff that all you do is communication work? So 2, 3, 4-ish out of 20, 25 people. So not very many districts have a communications person, and that's the point, is trying to identify, is this tool the right tool for you? And sometimes it's not. Sometimes, again, if face-to-face is the best way for you to communicate with your growers or your audience, that one's hard to beat. But if you can't do that, if you don't have the staff to do that, social media is always a great tool and a great opportunity to use. A lot of people use digital newsletters. Does anybody use a digital newsletter? Perfect, that's awesome. Those are all great tools to use to get your messages out to your audience. So really, and Laura will kind of go into this, identifying, is social media the actual tool that you need to best reach the people that you want to communicate with? How many of your districts have internet connection problems with your growers? Right? Not everybody has Wi-Fi, not everybody has Starlink or broadband. It can be kind of tricky with some of those areas of the state where internet is a challenge. So those are things to consider as well when you're looking at, is social media the right tool for us to communicate with folks? So if you've decided, yes, social media is something that we want to dive into, how do we start? One thing that we like to do, there's about 1,000 different ways we can go about it, but for the most part, this is a pretty standard practice. We call it a playbook. Some people call it a planning schedule. We like to sit down and actually go through as a team and say, okay, what are our top messages? What are the messages that we know this month are very much a priority for us to get out? It could be elections, it could be new programs, it could be new rules or new staff members that you want people to know about. So actually sitting down and planning, what are the things for this month that we want to talk about, and then organizing it into what we call a playbook for the month. For those of you who do run social media, what would you say your number one challenge is when you're trying to decide what to do on social media? Yeah. Getting information. Yeah. Right, so gathering the information to put out, that's a great challenge. A lot of people have that same thing. Other ideas of what are some of the challenges that you guys face with your social media needs? Yeah.
We have a lot of people in your district, so deciding what's getting close to when based on competition.
Yes, you've got a lot of people that you need to include. You've got a lot of different ideas that you need to include. How do we organize that? Great challenge. What's another one? Anybody else? I think there was another one. Yeah, go ahead. How active? Right. So all of those challenges, yes, right down to how many times a week should we post? How much is it effective? Can be solved using a playbook strategy. And literally it's just getting together with all those different people. If you're a one-man show, or if you're a team, just saying, okay, what are the top priorities for the month? What are the secondary priorities for the month? What are the third priorities for the month? And actually scheduling out, because a lot of times one of the biggest challenges we hear from people is, I don't know what to post. I don't know what to talk about. And to your point back there, I don't know, should we post this that could be competitive with this other thing? How do we do that? The basics of a playbook is to actually give it some thought. And that's really, it can be as thoughtful as you want. It can literally just be a list of things, and then you identify which weeks would it be the best to post what. Or it could be a detail, okay, this week we're really gonna push this hard, two posts about this, and then something else. But the number one thing to consider too, if you do a playbook strategy, is to leave room for fun. We're gonna talk about that in a minute as well.
So how many of you who are working in social media are using your district's annual or long-range plan as a reference when you build your strategy? Pick up you folks somewhat. I would highly recommend that. I think when you're coming up with your playbook, and your playbook can be a month by month, it can be every quarter, it can be 6 months, it can be a whole year worth of content that you're loosely thinking about ahead of time. And your board, which has been informed by your community and your staff, come up with these annual and long-range plans, strategic plans for your conservation districts. And that's really where social media can become a tool for your district. You have goals set for yourselves as a team, goals that have been set with input from your community. And so then social media becomes the tool that helps you actually implement those goals. So really reviewing those annual and long-range plans that have been approved by your district. And if you have more questions, like if it says there's a goal to maybe try to sign up 300 acres of riparian habitat, you can ask a lot more questions until you get to a strategy that you can complement or work towards through social media. So it might be asking, like, do we have these folks identified yet? Are there targeted areas within our community that we're really trying to reach? You can start thinking about whether there's an opportunity to do an ad buy through social media to help achieve some of those goals that are really written out in your annual and long-range plan. So there should be some goals and objectives in those plans. And just really highly recommend have a meeting with your executive director or some of the other program leads who are called out in that annual and long-range plan to think about how social media can become a tool to achieve those goals that are already written out for you. And then the other piece, other outcomes. So districts are receiving grant funding through state agencies, federal agencies, NGOs, foundations. Meet with those folks who are managing those programs. Maybe it's you yourself. You all wear lots of different hats, but think about what are the goals that we have to achieve in our reporting for this funding? What are the goals we need to achieve for the legislature, for some of the state funding? And really think about how social media can be a tool to achieve those. So what audiences do you most need to reach these deliverables? What platforms do they use? But really working backwards always from that annual and long-range strategic plan and the grants that you currently have in front of you and the deliverables that you must achieve in order to successfully use that funding.
Okay. So, we've heard a lot about strategy. When I was first hired as a project coordinator, I was not very good at strategizing. And I had a lot of different things on my plate. And I wasn't really for sure how to juggle all these different tasks that I had to deal with. So we have in Iowa, it's called the Water Quality Initiative. It's voluntary stewardship. So I knew that if I wanted people to volunteer for something that they weren't very familiar with, like cover crops, for example, that was one of the key practices along with no-till and some of these things called budget field practices like wetlands, bioreactors, and saturated buffers. So if I wanted to normalize that, I had to sort of take the risk out of it, and I had to share stories of other people that were doing all of those things and having success with it. So, and I knew that a lot of these farmers were on Facebook, a lot of their parents were on Facebook. A lot of the people that were in our office were on Facebook. So I just started going out into the field with my cell phone and this cheap DJI drone that we got a Farm Bureau grant for. And started just taking videos of people doing really awesome things, like whether it was, this is a picture of John Keel. He does a lot of really great regenerative ag stuff. And he was showing up how to set up a no-till drill to go drill, winter triticale or cereal rye. And we made videos of terraces, waterways under construction, bioreactors being put in. Farmers like to get their hands dirty. That's why they chose to be a farmer. So sharing the videos and images of us and the farmers that are doing this great work, showing them getting their hands dirty, that's going to get a lot of clicks. And that's what we figured out is all this content of this was one of the ones that we had the most clicks on, was just early adopter farmer who was chopping triticale. And it had, with all of our cheap equipment, it had, almost 700 views, I think. So I think we did a nice job normalizing a practice that just hadn't had a lot of attention given to it. And when I first started, our county had about just under 300 acres of cover crop sown. And then 7 years later, we were knocking on the door of 13,000 acres. So it can be a really powerful tool. And this was just me and a state tech going out and spending an hour out in the field and then coming back into the office. So it's something that you don't really have to put a ton of time in. And we were just doing like what was happening seasonally. So if I was out water sampling, videos of water sampling. If the rye was being chopped, that's what it was pictures of. If people were calving on the rye, we would shoot videos of farmers out in front of their cattle, like just talking about how much healthier their calves were on the rye instead of being in the bar full of dust or whatever. So that's just an example of how we successfully use social media to normalize something and share people's story. Because if we don't share agriculture story, somebody else is going to share that story, and it might not be very accurate. There's a lot of great work being done. We just have to capture it and get it out to the public.
And I think, with this idea of having a little bit of strategy, a little bit of playbook to go by, it's also okay for this. Try something. Like, don't be so rigid in, okay, this is the plan for this day and this day and this day. It's communication. It's not a finite science. So it's okay to try things. It's okay to, if your colleague comes up with a great idea of a story they want to share and it's not part of the playbook, it's okay to still try it and see how it goes. Just like, did you know that video would end up being so popular? No, it's the playbook is there to help you when you can't come up with other ideas. It's not there to be the rigid schedule that you have to.
Yeah. And down the road, like I started off being just kind of off the cuff, and then it became more strategic as I kind of got my feet under it.
Shifting from kind of an outcomes focus, how you can use social media as a tool to achieve outcomes, to thinking about how it can be a tool for some of your district operations. One of those things is just around needs for staffing. Have conversations. If you are, for example, going to try a playbook for the next quarter or 6 months, schedule meetings with folks at your district who are managing programs, might have some staffing needs with your technical director, whatever level, and find out if there are any anticipated staffing needs or staffing changes coming up for your district in the next 3 to 6 months. And that can be another opportunity. You've got this benchmark now, like, okay, we know we're going to be hiring a new staff person in April. What if in February, we do a whole series of campaigns that really showcase the culture of our district? You get to meet all the different staff members that are already here, what we believe in, what our vision is, so that by the time you are posting a job announcement, hopefully folks have already started to get a really good sense of your team, are intrigued by it, would like to be part of that culture. So again, it's finding some benchmarks you can set for operations in this case, and then work backwards from and build some strategy around that. And the same can go for elections. So finding out, meeting with your elections lead at your conservation districts and thinking about, okay, if we're gonna be announcing that there's a position on the board in this month, working backwards from that, maybe we come up with a strategy for a campaign that's 3 to 4 weeks, just about the locally led aspect of conservation districts for folks who don't even realize what locally led is, how they can become part of it, either by serving on a board or voting in the election. So you already then start to have lots of ideas for content leading up to that announcement of this opening on the board or the announcement of the election. So just thinking about those things operationally, where you can work backwards, come up with great strategies that lead into these larger outcomes for your operations.
So the tools, it's always important to go back and go, is it working, is it not? Reevaluating, you know, it's never bad to step back and go, okay, is what we're doing working? Take a minute and go, okay, is it worth the time and energy? Evaluate your time. We all know that social media can be a time suck, especially in a staff where you are wearing multiple hats. Is it achieving the outcomes that you want it to be? We do this constantly for our clients. We're constantly, almost on a monthly basis, pivoting and saying, okay, is what we're doing working? Is this the right tool? What do we need to change? The beauty about social media is all the analytics that you're given. You can go right down to the zip code of, are we hitting the zip code that we want to hit? And really just looking at what you're doing and evaluating again what those outcomes are. Is it working? Is it worth the investment of my time? And it's okay if it's not. It's okay also to kind of take a pause, take a breath, reevaluate your playbook, and then go back to it at a given time. Anything else you would add onto that?
Yeah, and I think that's the great part of deciding maybe earlier on when you're first starting with a playbook, maybe start smaller with a month to 3 month playbook period, because then you can do a little bit of that adaptive management that we're used to doing in conservation. Kind of same principle with your social media. Start off a little small, 1 to 3 months chunks of playbooks, do some adaptive management until you find out what strategies, platforms, types of content are really working for you. And then you can start planning a little further ahead, 6 months ahead, 12 months ahead, which can be helpful for you, kind of take some stress off. Can also be really helpful. I mean, we all want to take vacations. We all want to have room to have time out of work, make room for a staff turnover. Having these playbooks for succession planning is huge. So eventually working up to a 6 to 12 month playbook can be really helpful and give you peace of mind for everyone on your team, that there's going to be some continuity and continuation of the strategy that you've tested at this point, learns what's working, and either you or someone else can carry it forward to the distance.
So now we're going to kind of switch gears and talk about how to use social media. So some of this, guys, is probably going to be very basic to you. A lot of you are already implementing a lot of what we're going to go over, but for those of you who aren't, have not yet jumped into the deep end of the pool, these are just some basic ideas to keep in mind when you're starting to use social media. And we do have a cheat sheet up here too that we can pass around for those of you who want it. And we by no means are the experts in what you do. Yes, we know a lot about conservation districts, we know a lot about agriculture, but we are not experts in your specific roles and in your specific district. So these are just some general tips and general things to keep in mind. First one is you have half a second to get their attention. When you yourself, I'm seeing the average age, we're the old ones in this room right now. So most of you are this, not all of you, but a lot of your peers are like this. They scroll every half a second. So you have half a second to get them to stop and go, oh, what was that? And go back, or to get them to stop on what your post was. So that's something to keep in mind. That first image, that first thought, that first word. Spend some time thinking about what that very first image is. Then you have 1 to 2 seconds to keep their attention, to keep them to where they may hit their link They may press on it, they may like it, they may follow, you have 1 to 2 seconds. When I started this business way back many moons ago, you know, we always said you had about 30 seconds to grab somebody, and you have about 3 times, your message has to get to them 3 times before they even understand what they're seeing. Now we say it takes about 30 times. How many of you are fed on your social feed different ads for different products? We all are, right? So the average is they are gonna, and you always say, God, I see this all the time. It's because it's part of the math. The algorithm says on average, a person has to see something 30 times before they might click that awesome tattoo or that awesome, whatever it is, fill in the blank. So keep that in mind, that even though it may not seem like right off the bat, you're getting traction, over time, you're building up that following. You're building up that acknowledgement of your message. Keep it simple. We suggest, because of those 2 things, 1 message per post. On your image, if you have text on an image, keep it short and sweet. We've seen a lot of success with keeping basic stuff, because that's all the audience has time to even digest at that point. And so this is probably my favorite slide. As a communicator, this is always my problem. I want to say so much, but they only want to hear that little basic message. But on the flip side of that,
The flip side is sometimes you have to serve up a lot of what they want to hear before you can finally say what you want to say. So in order to get your posts, your content to show up in people's feeds, sometimes you have to serve them up the things that they're really looking for that really aren't what you're wanting to get to. Maybe your message that you're really wanting to get to is around, you know, the role that conservation districts play in the community, that they're locally led. But in order to get there, you're having to serve up, you know, like just like short videos with whatever trending song or sound is out there, paired with a crop being harvested that like is very sensorily like pleasing to somebody. So they're not really getting education out of it, but it's the type of content they're looking for. So you do a few of those, and then you throw in the one message you've been waiting to say. So it can be frustrating, but it is still part of your strategy, that you're feeding them what they want to hear, the type of content that they want to hear. It's still related to your work, but not really that one message that you're really wanting to communicate until you kind of throw it into the mix. So they do get that education after they've started to follow, after you've been showing up in their feed.
so my background is video, and this is my least favorite slide of the whole deck. Because I grew up in broadcasting, I grew up making videos, video has been my whole career. But the truth of the matter is, about 10 years ago, we made a switch, and social media changed it for us. We don't have to spend a lot of money on video content in order to make content that works. I'm gonna say that again. You don't have to spend a lot of money on video content to make video content that works. You had a small drone and your iPhone, right? And the content worked. Learn a little bit of video editing. Most programs now have a video editor in the program itself. What we are finding is the best content to certain audiences. Again, this goes back to Playbook, kind of strategize what audience am I trying to reach. Shorter, no need for polish, and invite and connect with users. UGC, user-generated content, is hugely successful in a lot of different ways. Have your farmers send you images of them out in their farm doing day-to-day work. That stuff is huge amongst people who don't know what we do or what they do. People love that. It doesn't have to be polished like the way that I grew up working in the suite. Do you add anything to that?
Yeah, and maybe I guess what Holt was saying about how you invite the participants of your programs, either invite them to participate in the video that you're shooting, or even invite them to capture it themselves. I think you can, if you give some prompts of the type of content you're looking for, or even the type of testimonial question you'd like them to answer, something to make it a little easier so it's not an overwhelming ask. But invite them to share content, for your social media, invite them to capture video of what they're up to that day. So that they're seeing not just from the district, but from the folks who are benefiting from the district, folks who really value the district. I think that can be some of the most, effective content, and again, it's free. It's just, it doesn't have to be fancy, it's just a quick shot of, you know, how their fencing turned out, and how they're happy with it.
Authenticity is more important than quality in some cases, and I think that's great for all of our districts. This is the one message Colton wanted to say today.
Drones still rule, right, right. How many of you guys, have any of you used a drone? Great, great. And has it been pretty helpful, pretty useful? Awesome, yeah, yeah, that's one of the things I noticed when I was out in the field with my phone. Is it just feels so, I just felt like we weren't really capturing the full picture of what we were trying to, you know, like when you're doing things in agriculture, whether it's in a crop field or in a forest or in a rangeland, like you're talking about large landscapes. And being able to get up in the air with a drone, you can just, like, how would I ever capture what's going on in this picture with the excavator and the wood chips and the riparian area there? It'd be so hard to capture all that with just standing on the ground taking pictures. So drones, they're great. And the other thing is you can get legally 400 feet above ground level, and you can get the farmer's farm in the background, you know, the old farmhouse, and just make it more of a personal image or video, which is really cool and special. The only thing is to just make sure that you either have your, I think it's called Part 107 license. Part 107, I have the number right. Or the way our district went about it is we secured a certificate of authorization through the FAA, which is free. I would recommend it, especially if you have more than one district employee, because then everybody is legally authorized to fly the drone in case you can't, or you're sick or whatever, and you write your own rules. You write your own training, you write your own safety protocols. So I would go on the FAA's website now and look into that. You don't have to have your Part 107 license. That was the cheap and easy way that we did it. There is a little bit of paperwork and learning what to do, but the FAA is really helpful at walking you through that process. And if any of you have any questions about that, feel free to pull me aside when we're done here, and I'm happy to talk more about it. So.
Not your videos. I feel like this is a really easy piece of content for conservation districts. There's so much knowledge in this room and not all the rooms scattered across the sleeping lady right now. And I think we can forget, that's a lot of knowledge that other folks don't have. They've got other types of areas of expertise, but even things like how to prune a native plant after you've had a native plant sale or something. Like, people don't know how to do these things. They don't know how to plant some of the native plants that they're buying at your plant sale. So even thinking about the real basic things that folks can do on their home, on their property, that in 30 seconds, you can just take a really short video of your colleague walking through how to do. I know Colton and I have watched conservation district videos on how to build a rain garden. We've watched conservation videos on selecting the right native plants for our zone and our property for erosion. These are all things that we're looking for on social media, and every district, because they're so local, the ability for somebody to find, I don't think we ever found anything that was specific to our county. But you all have the opportunity to serve up very specific how-to videos from their local county and how to do these things on their property. So I think the how-to videos are great. And then also, and I hope that a lot of you are experiencing this in this room, but one of the things I loved about Wade is that I got to learn and meet this like cast of characters that is within this conservation district group. And they're amazingly fun people, and the amount of laughter that you're always hearing as you walk from different building to building, and at the grotto, and in the dining halls and outside. There's an amazingly fun group of people that are involved in conservation, and I think it's so important that you leverage that, like, it doesn't, like Kara was saying, it doesn't have to be dry and serious all the time. If you have some really fun, charismatic folks on your team, feature them. Feature them talking to each other, feature the banter that goes on among the conservation district folks. There's so much fun in what we do, and whether that is just something that engages folks with your content or makes them want to work at a district someday or makes them want to serve on a board. I think there's a lot of ways to leverage the fun that is within the conservation district for folks.
So there's also opportunities in Washington specifically to leverage partners, to leverage other groups, to leverage other content that other people are making. If you are in a small staffed environment, sometimes leveraging these partnerships is the way that you're really going to succeed at this. There's a lot of content out there, and there's a lot of content by a lot of your peers, whether it's in the Firewise programs, whether it's in the BSP program, whether it's in different programs that everybody is doing individually. There's parts and pieces that you can leverage from what they're doing in your district. That's a home run too. It doesn't always have to be your specific branded content, as long as the message is the message that you need to get out to your audience. That's okay. There's also partnerships outside the conservation district sphere with other groups that are doing like-minded things. This is a program how Laura and I met with Washington Grown. It's another great statewide program where there's a ton of content on the Washington Grown program that is telling conservation district stories. How can you leverage some of that content into your own plan? Everything from videos that is done, also calling up people and saying, hey, I really love that graphic that you just had. Is there a way that my district can leverage that? We don't have the funds to create that infographic. We'd love to use that. Do you mind if we share that here too and put our logo on it, or work with that same designer? There's a lot of different ways to leverage what other people are doing. Washington Grown is one of those examples. This is a program that our office manages, whether it's the video side of it and the TV program or the promotional side of it as well. This is another great statewide program that is telling your stories. It's a great way for you guys to connect and use some of the stories that are already being done. Today, we featured a whole lot of different districts and a whole lot of different areas throughout the state. So yeah, just a great program overall to connect with. And these are some of the topics. The reason Laura and I are here today is because we collaborated on Washington Grown. And so it's been a great way to connect with a lot of people.
So we're on YouTube, there is a playlist, sustainability and conservation playlist. If you wanted to get a sense of some of the content that's out there, see some of the conservation district stories in particular, that's where you can find them on YouTube. It's on that Washington Grown playlist.
This is another just program under the Washington Grown umbrella that we've done. The world needs us, dang. The world needs you. Washington, as you guys all know, we export so much of our food. And it's not just our people here in Washington State that benefit from the work that you do. It's people around the world who benefit from the work that we do in Washington State. So another great program that shows some of the conservation messages and the end results that we are all striving to achieve. We also have a magazine that we have featured districts in. Water, 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 water. That's a lot of what we talk about on Washington Grown. And so, yeah, just another reason to reach out. Another example of a group that does work in a lot of your districts is the Washington Meat Foundation. They do a lot of great stories. Again, this is a program that we manage. Like I said, we do a lot of great stories, but again, it's just the whole idea is showcasing our partners. And these aren't the only ones. There's other districts, there's other groups in your neck of the woods who are already telling great stories. Jump on their bandwagon and help cross promote or use some of their content. This was out of, Franklin Conservation District and Wheat Meat. So, working very closely with Kara Calvert out of Franklin on that. This is some of the other work that we've done through the Wheat Foundation. We did a whole series on riparian buffers. So if you guys need content ideas for some of these topics, yeah, there's a lot of great content already out there. I say plugs.
Yeah, so we've got about 15 minutes, 7 minutes, is it till 50 or?
Yeah, till 5.
Okay, yeah, so we
We're good.
did that. To everyone here, questions, discussion, is there anything that you saw that you're like, hey, I've done something that really worked well that you want to share with the group? We'd love to just open it up for some discussion at the end of your questions.
I don't know if you have any tips for communicating complex programs to lower social media, but I'm the BSP coordinator for this county. It's a hard program to explain like 2 to 3 goals. I don't know.
Yeah, that is such a great question. I'm very familiar with that program and all 3 of us are now at this
Yeah.
point. I understand that challenge. I think one thing that can be helpful is really thinking about it in terms of the most pressing outcome for the program at the time and who needs to be engaged with that piece of the program. I think, and understandably, I think there can be a tendency with BSP in particular and some of these other complex programs to feel like you have to provide the entire history and context of the program, which then you have to get into what TMA is and all these, what counties are and aren't BSP. I would not recommend that at all on social media. Hopefully there's a place on your website that you can direct folks to, but you don't even have to even mention the program on social media. For example, if you're really looking for folks to sign up for a stewardship plan, just talk. Don't mention the program, just say what the opportunity is, if you have a stewardship plan, if there's any potential to get more, be eligible for more funding.
Sure.
And then direct them to where they need to go to learn more or a call to action on the website, but really focusing on what is appealing to them. And if they don't really need to know the program title or the complexities of it yet, I wouldn't even go there yet on social media.
Okay.
Especially with a program like that. It's really thinking like, not necessarily from, you know, that the program administrator's perspective, but really like, you know, when this works well on the ground for someone, what does that look like for them? What is in it for them? And just pushing that message on social media.
Okay.
Does that help?
I understand I was shipping our BSC program, and the most valuable thing has to do with the foreign activities, the things your mark, like this is what we can do. And then we have a link to our technical assistance, sign up and to learn. That's how then they give them more information.
Okay.
But just like.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's similar. I try to pull out pieces of the program and be like, this is how this works for you. You know, this is a piece of it that works for you.
I love that you brought up before and after, but that is an underused tool that every one of you can use. A picture before, and here's the thing though, you have to be diligent about getting the before picture, right? That's what most of us forget is, oh gosh, I've got this right after, but what did it look like before? So be diligent about saying, okay, day one, I wanna go out and take a picture, and then 3 months later, when it's all implemented, for the after. The before and afters are huge, you experience that too.
Yeah, it's a great way to tell the whole story. And it makes it more relatable too, because a farmer sees like, take cover crops for example. A field that's got 3 feet tall cereal rye on it, it's like, that doesn't really resonate with me. My fields don't look like that because I don't do that in practice, but when you see the before and after pictures beside each other, they see what their farm looked like compared to that before picture. And then they're like, oh, okay, you know, like, I can do this on my side of the fence, so.
And also, a photo during construction, if that's appropriate, if it is a larger project, like the drone footage that was shown earlier is really compelling. That can be really helpful for folks when it comes to the state legislature every once in a while, jobs becomes the focus again. And when we can show that conservation district projects create jobs, being able to pair that with active construction images is really, really helpful. So not only can it help tell the story of the project from beginning, middle, end, if they can come in really handy later if you have a whole folder of action shots showing the jobs that are created through conservation.
Yes, so Jen asked if we have an example of a playbook. We do. Come to me, Colton, or Laura afterwards, and when we do all this, and we absolutely can share just kind of nuts and bolts, and it's pretty simple. It can be anywhere from truly a calendar that you're like, okay, this week I'm gonna focus on X, or this month I'm gonna focus on X. So today I'm gonna do this kind of post, today I'm gonna do this post, I'm gonna do this. Or it can simply kind of be a to-do list. But yes, we're happy to share just a blank playbook example. Yes, absolutely. Any other thoughts? Yeah.
Under your seat, you guys talked about having something about the branded template.
Yes.
You guys do that or is that? Okay.
Yeah.
Just curious, well, base covered.
Yeah, I would say anything related to telling your story, we do. We have a lot of jack of all trades on our team. And I think you can find that a lot of places. I think what's different about our team is that we have built it very intentionally to serve agriculture and conservation in particular. So we have a lot of experience with the conservation districts, understanding the types of content and the types of outcomes that you're gonna need to achieve everywhere from promoting an election to trying to get signups for the grant program or participants in Firewise, things like that. If it's a district that doesn't have what's called a brand style guide, I think a lot of districts at this point do, but just standards of how all of your content looks, whether it's social media, your website, videos, the colors, the fonts, all those standards that your district follows to really always show up consistently for your community so they recognize you and start to build trust with the work that you do. So that usually, if the district doesn't have a brand style guide yet, where we start working with making sure there's some standard colors, fonts that will follow for creating templates. And then using that guide then to create whatever templates would be most helpful and adaptable for you and your team. So we have done that. A lot of districts have been enjoying using Canva for that. It's so easy to plug and play. But we can do it. We have folks in Adobe Creative as well, but that tends to be the one that works best for a lot of districts.
Any other questions? Some of this, like I said, is probably, some of you are probably already implementing a lot of these things. Yeah, it's, I guess the one thing we all wanted to leave you with is social media is not scary. It is a vital tool to connect with certain audiences and viewers. I know a lot of people, a lot of our peers, I just heard yesterday, I was meeting with a peer of ours and she's just like, I'm just so sick of social media. But you know what? That's where our audiences are. That's where people are connected. So yes, it's frustrating. And believe us, we are not the experts. We have a team of people who are younger than we are, who are doing actively managing social media. But we understand the frustration that can come with it, but it doesn't have to be. Again, using the playbook of just having a strategy before you sit down and at least having that stress kind of off your shoulder of what am I gonna post today? So don't be scared of it. It is a vital tool. And yeah, just a little bit of planning can help take some of the stress off your shoulders. You know,
One mistake that I made, like with Facebook, now, how many of you guys use Facebook? Okay, so it's not just for old farts. Okay. But, you know, I would post something, and this is my bad, and I learned from it, but I would post something, and then, okay, that's done. And I'd walk away and go back to whatever else I had needed to work on, but I should have been posting things and then sharing them with other staff, family members, farmers that would have been interested in that. And I think a lot of them eventually stumbled upon the content and found it anyway, but I think we could have gotten more views and educated people more quickly if I would have utilized that share function better.
Another question, is, we don't use Instagram, we just use Facebook, so I'm guessing this is that. The younger crowds, Instagram, both days, and
Yeah, so for younger crowds, what we have found, yes, Instagram reels are huge. Another great spot to catch young people that maybe is a little less time consuming, YouTube shorts. So if you have a YouTube channel and you've got these little 30-second bite pieces, 15 seconds, and you just upload them, the quick description on them, those can be super helpful to get after, again, the half a second photos who are just scrolling. So YouTube shorts, Instagram reels, I know some people feel a little icky about TikTok. That's another spot that you can reach a younger generation as well.
If you're investing, you know, like we've been saying, it doesn't have to be a huge investment of time and money to create a video, but even if it is just a larger investment of time in a video, just think about the ways you can leverage that on Facebook, on Instagram, as YouTube short, but also one thing that I think can be a missed opportunity is the ads. So if you have Meta, if you go into the business suite, there's a whole ad center and you can really set some pretty great demographic filters of the ages you want to reach, the zip code, and what a more perfect thing for districts that really have very focused service areas. You can really target with a pretty affordable budget. You can make sure that your social content appears as an ad to certain demographics within your target area. And I know that that's something, you know, that I regret not doing more when I was working to promote conservation districts as an agency employee. I think it was a missed opportunity, but I would look into that as well. For any time that you are spending more time on a post, with a little more investment in it, consider if an ad really help you reach the outcome and reach the audiences that you're wanting to engage.
so you do that for ad. For.
Any other questions, comments? Awesome, guys. Yeah, we'll be around tonight, so feel free to grab one of us if you want to have a chat. But yeah, thank you guys for the invitation to come chat today, and good luck. We're cheerleading for you, so enjoy the night.